Hello there guys, it's me Brad, back with another video. Now, before this review on Train Simulator Classic begins, I want to unbox something real quick. I actually planned for my next Train Simulator Classic review on the Caledonia Works Great Western Kings. And then after that, I would do the video on the A3s on New Year's Eve, the last day of Flying Scotsman's centenary. However, due to my mental health, that wasn't to be. So, instead, I decided to get this out of the way by uploading it on my 21st birthday, June 10th, 2024. So once you actually do get to watching the video itself, you may hear me say the Kings, and that's because I filmed this review session not long after filming the one for the Kings. So, as I'm quite fond of the A3s, I've decided to get this video out first, before I do the video on the Kings, which may be pushed back, because I'm considering another Star Great Western locomotive to look at. So yeah, I thought I'd get this little disclaimer out of the way, so with that, enjoy! Hello there guys, it's me Brad, back with another video. And today we have once again returned to Train Simulator Classic with another DLC review. Now, I hate to brag, but guess who has the most popular review on a Caledonia Works product? Well, at least I did have the most popular video on a Caledonia Works product, until that place was taken by LaserJet. Ah well, it's effectively now the TSC version of my video on the half engine. But collectively, I think we all know why it was so popular back then. I thought to round off 2023, and also to round off her centenary, we'd have a look at Caledonia Works version of probably the most famous steam locomotive class in the world. And that are these. The London North Eastern Railway A3s. So yes, to round off Flying Scotsman's centenary here, I thought we'd have a look at Caledonia Works version of her kind. And I'm gonna start this off with a little confession. I actually couldn't wait for this to be put into a discount. So the moment I saw the promo video, I was like, son, I've got to purchase this, and I did. And you get an absolute ton of liveries included with this pack, as you saw earlier. And once again, we'll be going through each one of these individually, and then later on we'll go through the features. And I'm so sorry about the lag, because as you can see, if you put down a lot of these, it just lags the hell out of the game. So, I'm sorry about the lag, but I'm sure many of you won't mind it. Oh, we'll have a look at the liveries first, and then later on we'll discuss the features. So, starting off over here with 2547 Doncaster, or as we know him as Clarkson! Come on, you should have known that was coming, but anyway, as portrayed by Doncaster, here we have the LNER pre-war apple green. And once again, Kris has done an absolutely fantastic job on modeling this locomotive class. And I really like the lining on the boiler. If I just zoom in, you can see it's a bit pixelated, but if you zoom out far away, it looks very crisp and sharp. And going down the sides, you can see you've got the nameplates, which are 3D. I'll just zoom in to Doncaster. You see she's got 3D nameplates. Well, all of them have got 3D nameplates, but I just thought I'd show it off on Clarkson so you can see how that looks. And continuing down, you can see we've got the round dome. I will show off the customizations later on, as I said, but you do have dome customizations for these engines. And also, one other thing that I think is pretty cool, there's no driver and fireman figures in the cab. I'm so sorry about the lag. Not much I can do about it, I'm afraid. And I think they look pretty nicely done. Although,
oh, for heaven's
why the hell does the driver look like Nigel Mansell? And the fireman also looks good too. And not much I have to say about the crew members, since you're not even going to be looking in the cab, you're going to be looking at the loco itself, aren't you? And here's a close-up on the number. And this looks a bit more basic to me than the traditional LNER numbers, but maybe that's just what Kris had to work with. Because you don't get the little, what are these things called? The little black indents? Is that what they're dubbed as? I don't know. You don't get the little black indents on the curved segments of the 2 and the 5, for example, so that's just a bit strange, but you hardly notice it. And here's a closer look at the Great Northern Coal Rail tender, and the lettering on the side does look a bit pixelated where the black indents are, but again, you hardly notice it. And going at the back of Jezza, you see the vacuum and old air brake hose arrangement, and then you also got the tender water capacity, 5,000 gallons. And if we go through the plate, you can see that it, oh Jesus, is it 3D? Oh, I don't think it is. Oh, that's a bit of a bugger. But again, you're hardly gonna notice that. As you can see, it's similar to the Canes. We've got a sort of grubby look on the buffer beams to give it a bit of a used look. And coming round to the other side, let's see, it's basically similar to the side we just looked at. This is pretty typical with many of these add-ons, but again, a very nicely done job on the apple green, in my opinion. I think Kris did a very good job pulling this one off, and you can also read the builder's plates very clearly. Albeit these like Scotsman's builder's plates, because another slight downside is that the original 2547 was built in 1924, but I don't think Kris was able to get any source images of 1924 builder's plates, so there's a bit of a pity that's left out, but once again, you're hardly gonna notice it. And moving down to the front buffer beam here, you can see we've got the cauterized buffers to give it a nice look, along with a what looks to be a silver chromed coupling hook, which is very nicely detailed for a basic object that we hardly take notice of. And then, as you can see, we've also got the number on the front as well. It's slightly more basic look, along with the brighter number on the other side. So yeah, that's the apple green livery for you. My usual basic overview of it, that is, because I'm not a professional. Now, moving back, as portrayed by 2544 Lemberg, this is the wartime black livery, and as you can see, it's basically the same as the apple green, except just black all over the place, really. Again, some of these are basically like reskins of each other, and again, looks very nicely done. down the side. As you can see, all the lining has been removed because this was wartime. And as you can see, like the Kings, you also have a cover over the front window to prevent the crew from being hit by bullets as they're trundling along if they were to encounter any access force powers. And this one also has the non-corridor tender because this came before the corridor one came into presence. Or was the corridor one made before it? I don't know. I haven't quite got the facts settled into my head correctly, but coming around the back, you see the detail bringing up the back. You'll be able to see the detail a bit more once we look at the BR Blue version. Well, I say BR Blue, really when we get a look at Flying Scotsman and the others that have a corridor tender, you'll see what I mean. We've got the weathered buffer beams on the back to show that it has been used very well. And once again, coming up the other side, basically the same deal. And also, like on many of Kris's add-ons, you do have a Bible in the cab. I'll show the cab off much more once we do the feature discussion, but yeah, this is the wartime black livery that practically all of the Big Four railways had when World War II broke out in 1939, except the Great Western Railway's express engines for some strange reason, which I'm not exactly sure of, but yes, very nicely done on the wartime black, if I say so myself. Now, moving on back, we have the post-war black, and as portrayed by the now renumbered 106 Flying Fox. This one is basically the same as the original wartime black, except this time, apart from the number change, it's got the London North Eastern Railway initials, the full LNER initials on the tender, and it's also got a corridor on the back, which, as you can see, it's fairly well hidden on the black liveries, but we'll be able to see it a bit more once we have a look at some of the... We'll be able to see it a bit more once we have a look at some of the other locos. So, this one's basically the same as the wartime black, except it's got a different number and name, or different identity, I should say, and it's got the corridor tender. Now, moving back from that, we have number 41, who's this one? Salmon Trout, in the post-war apple green. And as you can see, it's basically the same as the pre-war apple green, except it's got the LNER initials and the number in the Gill Sans font, which British Railways would later adopt when it was formed in 1948. And as you can see, it's basically the same as the pre-war green, except it's obviously a different logo, which is why I'm doing this a bit fast, because it's practically something we've already seen before. So apart from the identity and the lettering change, this is basically the same thing. Oh, and the fact it's also got the banjo dome as well, just thought I'd point that out. And here we have another version of the post-war apple green, except as portrayed by number 110, Robert the Devil. Well, it has the traditional LNER font back, so once again, there's another case of this engine being basically the same, except has a different identity. And we can have a more proper look at the non-corridor tender, so you can see it's a bit better. So we go on the back, you can see the very nicely done lining on the back. That looks very cool. And I think, I could be sorely mistaken, but I think some of the tender bits were reused from when they originally did the Northeastern Raven A2s. At least I think, but I could be wrong. But at least it's a better reuse than what Dovetail Games has been doing lately. So yeah, it's another case of this being basically the same, just some very minor differences. Very minor differences. Right, now we can move on to the BR liveries, and as portrayed by the now renumbered 60037 Hyperion, which I always think of the Hyperion in Honky Impact's 3rd whenever I think of that word. It sounds like a Transformer name for some strange reason. But yeah, this is the BR Apple Green, and once again, it's basically the same as the conventional Apple Green, except it's got the BR number and the Gil Sans font on the tender. And if we go in close to the numbers on all of these, just close, you can see it's a separate texture, which always looks a lot better than textures that are just baked onto the thing. And it's the same deal for the lettering on the tender. As you can see, it's slightly floating above the body itself. And going up the back, as you can see, we've got a very red buffer beam on the back, which I think looks quite nice. And going up the other side, basically the same deal as the previous Apple Green logos we looked at. So, again, not a huge amount of difference, but there are some subtle differences, shall we say. And then if we have a look at the front number plate, as you can see, another tiny downside is that the numbers are 2D, but once again, you hardly notice it, do you not? Now, moving back, as portrayed by number 60058, but Billa, oh Jesus, how the hell do you pronounce this name? Billa Athol? God, please do correct me in the comments. But anyway, as portrayed by the now renumbered 60058, this is the BR Ultramarine Blue. This and the Apple Green were one of the experimental liveries used in the exchange trials in 1948. And I think this looks very nicely done. Excuse the sun glare shining on some of the engine, but this looks very nicely done. As you can see, I've given it the coal rail tender, which I think looks pretty cool. Coming up the back, you can see you've got the water-gallon plate on the side. The back, excuse me, and coming up to the other side. Basically the same deal. What more do you want me to say? I really like how the ultramarine blue looks. It's really giving me Gordon vibes, but this doesn't look as Gordon as the Express Blue, in my opinion. Yeah, I really like the ultramarine blue. Very nice color. And moving back, we have what I call the Gordon livery, as portrayed by number 60098, Sipin Cop, if that's what the name's supposed to be pronounced as. But anyway, here we have the BR Express Blue, and this looks very nice. I really like how this looks on the A3s. It gives me serious Gordon vibes. It really, really does. So going on the side, you can see how some of that looks very, very cool. Really like how Kris pulled this one off. Going up the back, you can see it's a bit more bland on the back of the tender, but as if that matters that much when it's a color that definitely looks better than black, in my opinion. And coming up to the other side, basically the same deal. This one really reminds me of Gordon. It really, really does. The only thing that really needs changed are the wheels to be the same color as the loco, and then we basically have Gordon. Well, that and the smoke deflectors and the banjo dome. Then we basically have how Gordon is in my AU now, and yes, I know some of you are wondering why he looks similar to Flying Scotsman. A video is planned to explain that. It's just gonna be a good long while before you actually see it. Moving back from that, we have number 60094, Colorado, and I don't mean the state, sorry America. But anyway, as portrayed by Colorado, this is the BR Brunswick green, and as you can see, it looks very similar to the green that we saw on the Kings, and I really like how this one looks, although I don't think this looks as nice as the one on the present-day Flying Scotsman, which we'll look at in a bit, but here she is in the Brunswick green. As you can see, I've given her the early crest corridor tender. Oh, sorry. As you can see, I've given her the early crest corridor tender. There is a late crest version of the tenders included as well, and there's also a double chimneyed version of this loco as well. So you do have a little customization. The only thing you really can't change are the funnels, which is understandable. So you see how the back of the corridor tender looks on the Brunswick green. And coming up the other side, similar deal. Except the only difference between this one and the other liveries, quite frankly, is that it has a speedometer, and if I go right in, you can oh god damn it, you can actually read somewhat read what it says, which I think looks very cool. Albeit the only downside is that it's 2D, I'm afraid, but when it's such a very small piece, I really don't care. Once again, you're hardly gonna notice it. So yeah, this one's basically the same as some of the other ones, except it's got the speedometer fitted, which really looks nice, and I really like how you can actually read that. So yeah, once again, same deal, except just a few minor alterations. And the final of the BR liveries is Flying Fox again, except this time she's got the double chimney, and she's got the old overhead live wire stickers all over the place, and also in addition to the Great Northern Coal Rail tender, she's also got the German-style smoke deflectors, and many of the engines lived out their days until they were withdrawn in the 60s, and sadly most of them were scrapped, all except for Flying Scotsman, thankfully. So yeah, as I'll admit, it kind of sucks we don't have Great Northern or Papyrus preserved, but I'm gonna be honest, do we really need replicas of those two? Because I hate to break it to you, but they'll never be as popular as Flying Scotsman is now. And another difference is that you also have a Banjo Dome as well. And the builder's plate has also been moved down to the cab too. So this is basically the same as the original Brunswick green, just again with a few minor alterations. Coming up the back, you can see the old overhead live wire stickers on the back end of the tender. And come around the other side. She's also got the speedometer wheel, if you want to call it that. I'm not exactly sure what that little apparatus down there is called, so please do give me a shout in the comments if you do know what that is called. So yeah, very nicely done on the two Brunswick green liveries, if I say so myself. Right, now to talk about the liveries of the sole surviving member, 4472 Flying Scotsman. And as you can see, I have arranged her into basically the variations of her owners. So we have, from left to right, we have Alan Pegler, Sir William McAlpine, Tony Marshington, and the National Railway Museum. So let's start discussing those. Okay, now this is embarrassing. I'm actually having to open the manual so I don't get the liveries mixed up on Flying Scotsman. So over here we have Flying Scotsman in the 1963 to 1965 condition. This is basically where her first owner, Alan Pegler, aka her saviour, took her to Doncaster and completely refurbished her into her apple green livery from the Brunswick, and I really like the red nameplate. That looks very cool. And another difference is that the black on these splashes has been replaced by a full green, which really looks nice. And going outside, it's pretty similar to the pre-war apple green, except obviously it's not 2547, it's the most famous steam engine in the world. And she's also got the corridor tender on the back. And another difference is that she has the top that extends from the cab to the tender to make sure the crew don't get wet, and they're running her in the rain. And of course, as we all know, she's also got the corridor tender on the back. And another difference is that she's also got the speedometer, so the crew knows how fast they are going. I think this looks very nicely done. I really like how Kris pulled this one off. All the liveries basically capture how the A3s and Flying Scotsman look in their revenue careers until we get to the preservation career Flying Scotsman. Very nicely done. Really like how this one's pulled off. Very, very cool. And the next livery we have is the 1965 to 1973 condition. And this one is basically the same as the 63, excuse me, the 63 condition, except the only difference is that she's got danger overhead live wire stickers on whatever these plates are, I'm not exactly sure. And her number has been replaced with the coat of arms, which, let me actually move over so you can actually see a bit better, which definitely looks very cool. What coat of arms is that? Is that no, that definitely isn't England's coat of arms, or is it? Oh no, I'm gonna have to look that up. But undoubtedly, the major difference is the fact that she's got her second tender with her, because with all the water troughs being removed and the water towers being dismantled, Alan Pegler made the decision to give Flying Scotsman a second tender so she can have a little bit of extra water capacity for her rail tours. And I really think they did a very good job on the water tender. If we have a look up top, you can see the coal space has been covered over, unlike on the front tender, as you can see with the coal in that. And of course, she's got her number plastered onto the side as well. And if we have a look at the back, we've got more danger overhead live wire stickers slapped on to the back of the tender, and she's also got this gaping maw that allows the crew to walk through the water tender and go through the corridor of the front tender, and then we find ourselves in the cab. But once again, we're not going to look through that yet. We'll look through that once we do the feature show off, but very nicely done on the double tendered version. And coming up the other side, same thing. No need to give a proper explanation. Oh, and the fact there's the odometer. But apart from those minor tweaks, that this engine is basically the same as the first one over there. Oh, and the fact it's also got the Doncaster square, I think that's what it's called, the little green patch on the side of the cylinder, which looks very cool. If we zoom in, you can see the lighting is slightly pixelated, but not to the point where it detracts from the model as a whole. Now here's something I'm sure many of you lot in the US think of, because here we have the engine in her USA tour, guys. And once again, it's the same as the previous version, except she's been outfitted with an American Southern Railway whistle, a high-intensity headlamp, and she's also got flags on the lamp brackets. She also has a bell, and if we zoom in, similar to King George V, you can clearly read the lettering on the front. and she's also been given a Buckeye coupler, and she's also been given a cow catcher as well, because over here in Canada and the US, many locomotives required cow catchers to move obstacles off the line. And another difference is the fact that the black on the splashers have returned. But apart from that, this engine is basically the same. Just, again, minor modifications. Need I say more? Now, moving on from that, we have Flying Scotsman when McAlpine brought her home from the US. This is the 1973 to 1994 condition. As you can see, once again, very similar to the previous double-tendered versions, except the overhead live wires sticker has moved down to near the bottom of the running board. The Doncaster patch on the cylinder is also buggered off and has been replaced with red lining. The nameplates are black, and she's also got the Australian record plate on the side, which you can read very clearly. Look at that! That looks amazing, although tiny downer, it's 2D, but again, you're hardly gonna notice it. And then another major difference is that the second tender has been painted in the BR blue and grey, which I'll admit, I don't think looks as good as the apple green. I think it looks better in the apple green than in this, but Flying Scotsman did pull this during her excursion career with McAlpine. It looks cool, don't get me wrong, I think it looks cool. I just think it looks a bit strange that it's not in the apple green, because we all envision Flying Scotsman's second tender in the apple green, or the Garter blue, as Bitten showed off when she had the second tender. Here's a shot of the back of the odd second tender. Again, I find it so weird that this is in blue and not green, but Flying Scotsman did have this, so she is more than welcome to it, if she were to get it back. But it's basically the same as the previous ones, just, again, minor alterations. Now, moving back from that, we have Flying Scotsman when she went to Australia. As you can see, apart from the fact that the second tender has buggered off, another difference is that she's got the air brake hoses dangling from the front, since the UK is practically the only country to still use vacuum brakes, probably since most of their stock had vacuum brakes. Apart from the air brake modification, Scotsman has also been fitted with a different whistle, an Australian whistle, below the firebox. And another difference is the fact that the Australian record plates are also gone, because she gained those after she toured Australia. Moving back from that, we have Flying Scotsman in her 1994 to 99 Brunswick green. And again, I don't think this looks as good as the present day Brunswick green. That looks amazing, and we'll get to that later. And again, it is basically the same as the original Brunswick green, except the builder's plates have moved on to the smoke deflectors, and the smoke box door details have been picked out in silver. And she's also got the double chimney slapped on as well. So, apart from that, it's basically the same as the original Brunswick green, except she's also got the Lake Crest Corridor tender, which looks very cool, but again, I don't think this looks as nice as the present day Brunswick green, which you can see over there. I'm already spoiling it for you. Oh, wait a minute, hold on. Oh! Oh dear! Oh my god! Well, this is a first! Is that... Oh, Jesus. Okay, it appears that the texture's screwed up for the rear brake hose. Oh dear. Oh no! I'm sure many of you won't take notice of that. I literally just noticed that just now. God, that's not like Kris to miss out on stuff like that. Huh. That is strange. And going up the other side, basically same deal, except the fact that she's got the speedometer fitted. It looks alright, but again, I don't think this looks as good as the present day Brunswick green, in my opinion. Just what I think of this livery. We're all entitled to say what we want to say. Well, unless it's certain topics. And moving on from that, we have when Dr. Toni Marshington owned Flying Scotsman, and this is her in the 1999 condition. And I think this is basically how Flying Scotsman would look if the National Railway Museum actually bothered to put her in apple green for the centenary this year. And as you can see, the difference is the fact that she still has the Australian record plates, and she's got the modern Danger Overhead Live Wire stickers on the sides of the footplate, and she's also got the modern air brake hoses going up the front, because many of Britain's more modern stock are now using air brakes instead of the traditional vacuum brakes, and I think this has been reused from their king. As you can see, she's also been fitted with the double chimney, which I'll admit, it does look a bit strange on Scotsman's pre-war looking apple green, but if we do want to do like a made-up rail tour with Scotsman in this state in the present day, this is basically the closest we'll get to that. And the tender looks very similar to some of the other corridor tenders, so no clash of interest there. Apart from the fact it also has the modern Danger Overhead Live Wire stickers all in place. But why the hell do I keep saying Danger Head all of a sudden? And moving on back, we have Flying Scotsman in her 1999 to 2006 condition when the National Railway Museum acquired her. As you can see, it's basically the same as the 1999 state, except she's been given the German-style smoke deflectors, and she's also got the A4 chime whistle, which I think the sounds are going to be reused on their upcoming A4s and P2s, although it's not an actual A4 whistle, I don't think, because it doesn't have that little piece jutting out the top. So yeah, this one's basically the same as the original 1999 state, except the fact that she has the chime whistle and the smoke deflectors have been installed. So apart from that, this is basically the same. Oh, and it's also got the air brake hoses on the back of the tender. The modern air brake hoses on the back, unlike the Australian version. And going up the other side. A bit more rushed because it's something we've already looked at, just with minor alterations again. I'm so sorry that I keep repeating myself. And now we can move on to the National Railway Museum livery. So, here we have the 2011 Wartime Black. And it definitely is more pristine than the original Wartime Black. And it's also got the modern air brake hoses, and it's also been fitted with the double chimney. It's basically similar to the post-war Black, except the fact it has the wartime initials on the tender. So just going up along here, you can see how much more pristine this looks compared to the original Wartime Black. And coming up on the back, you can see the brake hoses dangling on the back of the tender. And coming around to the other side. Another obvious difference is the fact that Scotsman has the speedometer fitted, so crews know how fast she's actually going. Very nicely done on the 2011 Wartime Black, and she probably would have returned to service in this state in 2011. However, several more problems were found, so it took another 5 years to actually properly get the engine back into running order, and the fruits of their labour would pay off when Scotsman returned in 2016. And this is the livery she was in, the 2016 Wartime Black. As you can see, she's once again been fitted with the German-style smoke deflectors, And she's also got the BR front number plate on the smokebox door and the BR shed code at the bottom. And she's also been given her other post-war number that she probably would have had if Thompson didn't change it, in the form of 502, which definitely looks nice. And the tender is basically the same. Oh, and of course the nameplate is also gone as well, because this was prior to when she had that fitted for when she made her triumphant return a few months later. And the final livery we have, well, is it exactly the final livery? Because there's another one back there. But the technically final livery we have is Flying Scotsman in her current preserved state. AKA the state I saw her in when I saw her at York. And I was so happy when I actually saw the engine in person. I was overjoyed. My mind exploded. But here we have the engine with how she looks now. And I really like the Brunswick green on this one. It's more vibrant. It's a bit brighter. It stands out more than the original Brunswick green. And going outside, you can see just how amazing this looks. I really like how Kris pulled this one off. Very, very cool. Again, it looks so much better in my opinion than the old Brunswick green. It's not as dark. It's much more vibrant. It's brighter. It stands out. And I'm rambling because it's me. And coming around to the back of the tender. Once again, we've got the Danger Overhead Live Wire stickers slapped on the back, because this is basically how they are now. And come around to the other side. I think Kris did a spiffing job replicating Flying Scotsman in her current form. Very nicely done. I really, really like this. It really, well, I say really, it definitely looks like how I saw Flying Scotsman during my trip to the UK back in April. You wanna... Oh, god damn it, the controller disconnected! Seriously, like, you have no idea how happy I was when I saw the engine in person. It was a childhood dream fulfilled. And the actual final livery is another version of Flying Scotsman in her current state, except this time she has the white roof when she pulled the royal train on the East Lancashire Railway with the newly crowned Charles III. And that's basically all the liveries of this pack. I don't know if I've been recording for, actually. Good god, it's just come up to an hour! Right, that's enough looking at this lot. Let's show off the features, which are on another route, so I'm gonna have to swap round. Alright, here we are with the test run scenario. And welcome to Finsbury Park Shed. Yes, we are on the East Coast Main Line, London to Peterborough route. A route that Flying Scotsman has travelled very regularly. And here we have the comparison chart between the now former Bosman Games Merchant Navy, because Bosman Games has changed their name recently at the recording of this. I think they've called themselves, Precision Loco Developments, I want to say. I think that's their new name. But yes, we have the Merchant Navy, and then we have Clawton, number 5940, Columbus, which is pretty coincidental for me, because I remember when I was in school, I actually did a presentation on Christopher Columbus. And we have Gresley A3 number 2555 Centenary, which makes a lot less sense now, as it's 2024 and Scotsman's Centenary was in 2023. So yes, I am very late to the party. Anyway, comparing the Gresley A3 to the Clawton and the Merchant Navy, you can see that's the... Get a decent shot. You can see that the A3 is a bit shorter than the Merchant Navy. So it is the second biggest engine we've looked at. Alright, so now that we've had a look at the... Let me pause the game first. Now that we've had a look at the sizes, let's have a tour of the cab interior. There we go, we can see the full cab, and it really does look nice, doesn't it? We've got the pipe there, as is typical with Kris, along with the... Is that the Bible? Yes, it is the Bible. Okay, so we've got the Bible down there. Yeah, this cab looks very nicely done. It's definitely an OG Grizzly cab. Even though I do have automatic fireman turned on in the game, the fireman is actually shoveling the coal into the engine, even though I don't have automatic fireman turned on the locomotive itself. Whoops, just knocked something over. But you can do several things in the cab. You can open the windows on either side, and then if we have a look at the tender, you do have the tender handbrake. It is lagging a bit as all the A3s are not assigned as dead units, so it is going to lag a bit. So you do have the tender handbrake. You also have the water scoop, which you can put down if you're on routes such as the Riviera line in the 50s. In terms of camera views, you've got this view, stick your head out view, rear wheel view, front wheel view. Got this view, which is to actually see the inside valve gear, albeit you can't see the conjugated motion due to how dark it is. You got this view, full-on front view, and the fireman's equivalents. Lean out, fireman's seat, and the full-on cab. And you also have the firebox view, and we are back into our regular position. So now let's get down to showing off the whistle sound effects. So, well, I was gonna show off the whistles, but then the bloody safety valves blew off during the recording. Okay, you know what, while the safety valves blowing off, let's go through the head code and headboard options. So, like the Clawton, if you press Control 1 through 4, you get the traditional lamp placements. And then press Control 1 through 4 again, the lamps light up, press them again, you get the tail lamp versions, and then if you press Control 2 through 4, the lamps are removed from the lamp brackets on the bottom, and then if you press Control 1 again, you get the headboard. So, for the LNER liveries, you get the Scarborough Flyer, the Scandinavian, Queen of Scots, the Norseman, I think that's how you say it, Hook of Holland, West Riding Pullman, Hook Continental, the Night Scotsman, Flushing Continental, the Eastern Belle, the Aberdonian, Harrogate Pullman, the Highlandman, of course the Flying Scotsman, Scout's Cruise, Scarborough Flyer V2, Queen of Scots V2, Yorkshire Pullman, the Northern Belle, East Anglian, Scandinavian but in blue, East Anglian but in blue, East Anglian but in black, and that's all the headboards on the LNER liveries. And then if we have a look on the back of the Grizzly tender, as shown on the BR Blue version, you do also have the same controls. You have the handbrake, and then you also have the water scoop as well. And then, once again, go into the front of the locomotive. If you press Control 1 through 4, you get the traditional lamp placements. Press them again, lamps lights up. Press them again, you get the tail lamps. And then press Control 2 through 4, lamps are gone. And then if you press Control 1 on the BR versions, the headboards you get are Scarborough Flyer, Scandinavian, Queen of Scots, Norseman, Hook of Holland, West Riding Pullman, Hook Continental, the Night Scotsman, Flushing Continental, Eastern Bell, the Aberdonian, Harrogate Pullman, the Highlandman, Flying Scotsman, Scouts Cruise, Scarborough Flyer V2, Queen of Scots V2, Yorkshire Pullman, Northern Bell, East Anglian, Scandinavian but in blue, East Anglian but in blue, Black East Anglian, and then you get the actual BR headboards in the form of the Five Coast Express, T's Tyne Pullman, and the safety valve is likely gonna blow off, Yorkshire Pullman, Five Coast Express but in black, the Fair Maid, the Talisman, the Fenman, the East Anglian, the West Riding, the Tees to Thames, Butlands Express, which I find a bit weird, because... oh, bloody hell, controller disconnected. This one I find really strange, because it's in yellow, but you can't read the lettering because it's in white, so that is a bit strange. I do find that one a bit... I'm not keen on that one, to be honest. I mean, it looks cool. It's nice to have a unique colour scheme, but you can't really read the lettering unless you're up close with it. Nothing against this, Kris, but anyway, moving on, you have Butlands Express, the White Rose, which is a very pretty name, the North Briton, but with an O instead of an A, the South Yorkshireman, the Northumbrian, the Queen of Scots, the South Yorkshireman, excuse me, we already talked about the North Yorkshireman, the Norseman, the Tyneside, the Master Cutler, the Elizabethan, the Aberdonian, the Flying Scotsman, but in blue, the Scarborough Flyer, which I really like the blue livery on that, the Harrogate Sunday Pullman, is it a service that runs on Sunday? The Heart of oh, bloody hell. The Heart of... jeez, what? How the hell do you say this? The Heart of... Midlothian? I'm pretty sure I buggered that up. The Night Scotsman. And that's the BR headboards. And I'm going to restart the game because these safety valves are really annoying. Okay. Now that everything has calmed down, one thing I forgot to show off before we were going to go to the BR A3 is the tail lamp placement. So, like on the Clawson, if you press Control Shift 1 through 4, you get the tail lamp placements. Press those keys again, they light up. Press them again, you get the red lamps, and press them again, they are gone entirely. And it's the same deal on the BR version. Press Control Shift 1 through 4, press them again, lamps light up, and press them again, you get the tail lamps, and then press them again, they are gone entirely. Right, and here we have the comparison with Caledonia Works, modern day Scotsman, with the erecting shops, modern day Scotsman. Yes, I know the number plate is gone, I think that's a bit of a glitch, on my end. I don't think it's a fault with the model itself, but as you can see, the difference is basically night and day, because this was the best take on how Flying Scotsman is in her current form, but nowadays it's been superseded by a more proper model, in my opinion anyway. And here's a look around the modern day Flying Scotsman cab. So you can see that the major difference is the air brake system and the installation of TPWS on the footplate. The backhead, excuse me. Now, for the lamp placements on this one, if you press Control 1... Oh, nope, I don't want to exit. Press Control 1 through 4, you get the same exact deal. And then if you press Control 2 and 4, the lamps are gone entirely from the bottom. But if you press Control 3 again, you get the modern battery operated lamp. There's several versions. You got a white one lit up, you get a white one turned off, black lit up, black turned off, and it is now gone entirely. Now, for the Flying Scotsman liveries, you get the Cider Express, Scarborough Spa Express, Steamtown Carnforth, but in black, the Half Century Limited, Holland and Holland, the Fair Maid in a nice bright blue, the Fenman, SRPS Rail Tours, the Talisman, the White Rose, the Sundowner, which doesn't really make sense now as the sun is rising, the Queen of Scots, Swanage Railway, the Mid-Hants Railway, the Cathedrals Express, the Waverley, the South Yorkshire Pullman, the Norfolkman, the Tynesider, the Flying Scotsman but in blue, a much darker blue, the Keighley and Worth Valley Railway, the East Lancashire Railway, the Scarborough Flyer, the North Wales Coast Express, Flying Scotsman Centenary, which makes less sense now as it's not 2023 anymore, Thames to Tyne Limited, Cumbrian Coast Express, the Northeastern, Scarborough Flyer, the North Yorkshireman, the Flying Scotsman in the old LNER style, the Palatine, the Cathedrals Express, Blackpool Bell, Hadrian Flyer, the Retford Rover, the East Anglian, the Standard Flyer, shouldn't that be pulled by a BR Standard? And that's your lot for the Flying Scotsman headboards. Okay, now that everybody has calmed down, albeit I had to restart the scenario in order to do so, now we can go through the whistle options. So, here's for the original A3s, here's the spacebar whistle. I swear I just heard the AWS bell at the end of that. And for the short blast, you press Control Space, something I didn't mention on the Clawton because I didn't exactly know what the short blast whistle was. Ooh, that was a nice one. And there's no signal approval whistle on this one, unlike the Clawton as I showed off. Right, so now we get to some of the more nitty-gritty stuff. So, here is the now infamous Dovetail Games A3 next to Caledonia Works A3, albeit this one is in the USA tour, guys, and like I said in the modern day A3 comparison, the difference is just night and day. Kris and the team of Caledonia Works care about customer service so much more than Dovetail Games does nowadays, when all they do is listen to half-witted fanboys. Now I'm sure some of you can see the Brunswick Green tender of the yard. I'll get into that piece of scrap in a bit. But anyway, compared to the old whistle sounds on the old Flying Scotsman model, it is so much better. Although the erecting shops has changed our minds over that, as even though their reskin of modern day Scotsman is based on the LNER smoke deflector Scotsman from the mid-2000s, they actually bothered, even though the whistle is on the smoke deflectors, they've actually bothered to give Flying Scotsman her actual whistle. So if you press space, and then if you press B, you get the short blast. Still, this was good while it lasted. Right, now we get on to how Dovetail wanted us to celebrate Scotsman's centenary last year. This is the Flying Scotsman Centenary locomotive, which was included in the pack for the Centenary pack that was released in October 2022. Now, this was not well received by a lot of people because this was this is a reskin of Dovetail's mid-2000s Flying Scotsman model. And one thing that's insanely insulting about this rubbish over here, this poorly made reskin cost more than the original Flying Scotsman pack. This thing in UK money cost about 12 quid, whilst the original pack costs about, oh god, I think it cost 5 quid, 7 pence? I think that's how much it cost. It was the same price for the Wartime Black Scotsman. And the only thing that's good about it is the late crest on the tender. You can clearly read that, whilst on the builder's plate, as you can see, you can't read it at all. It is just plastered poorly on there. And save for the livery, absolutely nothing else has changed on this. Like, the whistle sounds the same, unfortunately. So yeah, this thing was not good at all. I honestly declared this an overpriced knockoff compared to the erecting shop's Flying Scotsman. And it's really making me question, who the hell of the higher up keeps approving these poor ideas? And to add insult to injury, this thing also includes reskins of coaches that we already have. So yeah, that thing was basically just a middle finger to Gresley, Scotsman, and her 3 previous owners. Though thankfully 10% of the cost does go to the National Railway Museum, although I'd prefer it if I did it to them directly. Anyway, tiny rant over with, let's go through the head code options on USA Scotsman. So if you press Control 1, the American lamp lights up, but you can only press Control 3 on the bottom head code. You can't press Control 2 or 4 because it's been taken up by the flags. Central lamp, which you press Control L3 again, lamp lights up, press it again, tail lamp, and then press it again, you get the Flying Scotsman headboard, and then if you press it again, it is gone entirely. Seriously, you have no idea how many times I've had to restart the scenario because of bloody safety valves blowing off. Anyway, if you press, it's got the same whistle as the other A3s. But if you press B on the USA tour, the Australian tour, or the 1999 to 2006 version, you get their secondary whistles. So here's the USA whistle. Yeah, I kind of screwed that up a bit by pressing the spacebar. Kind of cuts off a bit too sharply there. And then here's something that I think they may implement on their version of Dominion of Canada when they release their upcoming A4s. If you press Shift B, the bell actually moves, which I think is very cool. And like I said earlier, I think this might be put on their Dominion of Canada when they release their A4s, and I think where's the cord go? Okay. The cord does move, but it doesn't really move, like, realistically due to the game physics. But hey, Kris did what he thought was right, and again, I think he did a very good job on this, and if we have a look downstairs, you can see the ball does move, and I am going to shut this off before any of us go deaf. And I love the tone on it. It's very cool. So now if we move on to the 2006 version, here's its secondary whistle, and hopefully you can hear this over the safety valves that are going off. And then if we move on to the Australian version, here's its secondary whistle. If you press B, sounding very lovely. And then before we continue on from that, let's go to the back of the tender so we can show off the lamp placements. If you press Control Shift 1 and 2, you get the lamp placements on the corridor tender. Press them again, you get them lit up. And then if you press them again, tail lamps, and press them again, they are gone entirely. Now, this is another tiny nitpick I have. A tiny one. It's very minor. What did I kind of wish that the Australian Scotsman had? If I just put some lamps on her. I think it would be cool if she had the Australian electric lamps. So, for example, if you once you're at the once you're at the tail lamp version, if you were to press them again, you could get the Australian lamps lit up, and then press them again, turn them off, blah blah blah. So I think that would have been a nice feature, and I also think it would have been nice if they also included the Alice Springs headboard, but that's neither here nor there. It's a very minor nitpick. And now I'll show off this next feature on the Australian version. So, by default, let me get into the cab first. Let's get onto the footplate. By default, it's in the realistic mode, so everything is realistic to you. So, to get the locomotive going, you have to open the injector, and then release... Oh, bloody hell. Open the injector, then you can take off the brakes, you turn the F5 for this, and then you'd open the injectors, and then you want to press E for the reverser lock. Then you can wind the reverser up and down depending on the cutoff you want. And then I'll just give her a little bit of juice. And then the loco starts off realistically. It doesn't start off with your percentage of regulator. Oh, bloody hell. It just goes up to a certain percentage, and then when you shut it off, it gradually shuts off steam. Anyway, I'm going to put the handbrake and bring us to a stop. But let's say that you're the type of person who wants everything to come automatically. Well, if you press Control A, you get a simple mode, which is a more basic control mode, so you don't have to open the injector or close it, and you don't have to use the reverser lock, so you can move the reverser up and down to your free will. So I'm gonna bring this all the way back down, and then the regulator is also automatic to you. So if you're someone who isn't keen on realistic operations, you can turn on the simple mode, and everything is automatic to you. So another advantage to this is that you won't slip when you're climbing hills, because you do have a realistic wheel slip setting, which I will show off once we stop. Go back to the realistic mode. Brace off. Put this into forward gear. And now I'll show off the wheel slip setting. So if you put full power on the regulator, you get wheel slippage, which is a very nice touch, and I really like the sparks that come off the wheels. That is very cool, and as you can see, I'm kind of overworking her a bit, so let's shut off steam. That's enough wheel slippage from you, Scotsman. So, I think that we've gone over all the features, if I'm correct. If I've missed any, I'll put them in before we do the test run, but speaking of the test run, let's head over to King's Cross. Okay, so apparently there were a few things I actually forgot before I went to do the test run. So, you can actually change some of the looks on the locomotives. So if I just double click on Centenary, you can actually change a few features on the loco, such as if you replace, you see where the SBD is, that's for the smoke box door, and if you replace the 1 with a 2, you can see that the smoke box burnish details have been blacked out, but I personally like them showing, so I'm going to keep those open. And then the other change is the builder's plates. I'm assuming if you want them on or off anyway, so you see where it says BP, that's for the builder's plate. If you replace the 1 with a 2, the builder's plate is, no joke, it has buggered off from existence. Yeah, I've looked all over the locomotive, and I cannot see a replacement for it, so I'm guessing it's the option that you want to remove, I guess? And then where you see DM, that's for the dome. So if I replace the 1 with a 2, as you can see, it gives them the banjo dome, although I personally think the one on Flying Scotsman and the BR liveries look better than this. This one does look a bit strange in my opinion. And then you can do similar changes to the BR liveries, except you can't change the smoke box door handles to the burnished ones, but you do have the same options for the builder's plate. If you want it on or off, again, I'm just guessing here, which I know is a bad idea. And then you can also change the dome options on this one. And the banjo dome on the BR ones, I personally think is a lot better than the original versions on the LNER. Let's put that back. And then going down to the running board, the front buffer beam of the locomotive, you can actually change the shed code for where they're allocated to. So SA are the initials, and oh god, how many does this go up to? I'm gonna have to look in the manual real quick. Hold on. So it goes up to 20. No, 19, excuse me. It goes up to 19. Just found out. So, for example, on below, if you want to have your A3 allocated to a different shed, you can replace the 3, for example. So let's say you want to give it a 6. And then this gives you the Doncaster allocation. Pretty coincidental for me. I didn't really think I was gonna get that. And then, of course, if you go for 1... Oh wait, that's not King's Cross, it's York. But yeah, I'm sure many of you will get the idea. And of course, like all of them, you can change the numbers, the number on the loco as well. So for example, you can change it to 60050 right there. And that's oh Jesus, Persimmon? Please do correct me in the comments. I know that's a racehorse name. And then one thing you can do for the Brunswick Green livery is that if you see where the CS is, if you replace that with a 1, you get the yellow stripe down the side of the cab. And oh god, this was mentioned in a 1992 documentary on the locomotives of the London North Eastern Railway. I think it was something to do with crew and the electrification of the West Coast Main Line. I'll put it in the subtitles so you can actually get the context. And then another thing for the Brunswick Green version is that you can change the shed codes on the lower section of the smoke box door. So, for example, there we go, shed code. Where it says SC, for example, if I replace that with a 47, you can see that the numbers changed as so. And then one final thing to discuss before we actually do the test run is that there's AI head codes you can make. So if you want to run trains on AI, you can give them the head code that you want to give them, and then you can select the lamps and the headboard. So I'll show this off on the present-day Flying Scotsman. So, to do this, you want, well, for the locomotives at least, you want to press, you can go LF1 through 4, and then you can select the different head codes. So, for the top lamp brackets, I'll do the menu real quick. For the top lamp bracket, you can do, for the LNER, you can do 1 through 26. For the BR, there's 1 through 53. And for Flying Scotsman herself, it's 1 through 43. And then it's a simple matter of just putting LF1 through 4, and then you can get the different lamp brackets placements. So, for example, I can change the number to 23. So that way you get different headboard selections, and then it's the same thing for the bottom ones, so you can just do, oh, damn it, you can just go like this, and then 3, and then 4, and do 2, and then here it's 5. So yeah, you can have your own AI head code on the locomotive, and then I don't think is the same for the tender, so it's just for the front of the locomotives you can do these customizations on. So now that I think I've gone through all of the features that are worth mentioning, let's head on over to the actual test train. Right, here we are at King's Cross on a little what-if session. Like, what if the NRM did bother painting Scotsman in BR green? No, LNER green, god damn it. So yeah, little what-if scenario here. The engine that we have portraying Scotsman is the 1999 condition with the double chimney. And we've got some more modern traction that we use on the Flying Scotsman. So we've got, save for the A4s and the Deltics, we've got, oh, and also the Class 40s, we've got the 125-mile-an-hour HST sets, we have the electric Class 91s, as portrayed by 91101 in its Flying Scotsman livery, and also, worth mentioning with HST, we have 42302, officially the fastest diesel locomotive in the world. Whereas over here in Canada and the US, we have the slowest diesel locomotives in the world. And we have the current traction pulling the Flying Scotsman Express in the form of the Class 800s, as portrayed by 801, number 801105. So, let's get Flying Scotsman ready. Let's the passengers on and off for today's trip. Open the ejector and the cylinder drains. We'll put the reverse into full forward gear. Just to get auto fireman turned on. Go. And then let's also switch the point. Whoa! Just moved the game down when I didn't want to. Switch the points and... Okay, one more thing before we leave. Let's get the head code ready. The mainline lamp. And then we're gonna go for the Flying Scotsman Centenary headboard. As I said, a little what-if rail tour session, even though it's 2024 right now, and I am very late to the party. Right, the passengers are on, the guard's blown his whistle. I'm gonna keep the F5 HUD open for now, just so I know how fast I'm going. Down a touch so we don't give wheel slip when we put on full power. And we are ready to go! So that pretty much wraps up this video. There is the Caledonia Works LNER Grizzly A3 add-on for Train Simulator Classic. Highly recommended if you're an LNER nerd like me, or just a general Flying Scotsman fan. Now, save for the nitpicks that I mentioned earlier on in the video, this is a very nice bit of kit from Kris and the team of Caledonia Works. Like, they care about customer service, unlike Dovetail Games. And I really want to know who the hell of those higher-ups keeps approving these rubbish add-ons they keep putting out. So yeah, overall, I will recommend this to anyone who's a fan of Flying Scotsman. So, hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.